Hello, my name's Orlando Redden. I'm the District 4 Growth Director for 2017 and 2018. I'm going to go over club mentoring with all of you today. So what club mentoring is going to be one of the key things, or what is a mentor? What we need to cover first on this webinar is just that. What is and is not a club mentor? You can't be successful at something unless you know exactly what it is. And mentor expectations. These are more my expectations based on my experience as growth director and with the information I have gained from Toastmasters International. So this isn't just the things that you'll get from the manuals from them. This is mine as being a growth director and a leader within our district on the expectations I have for our mentors based on previous experience and seeing the successes and failures of clubs starting up. The other part is how to run a club. It's key. As a mentor, you have to understand the ins and outs of how to run a club so that way you can teach that and coach others to be able to do the same. The other big aspect we're going to cover is tools. What tools are out there to make you successful and the club successful and sustainable without you there? As a mentor, it's a 6-month period, so you need to ramp everyone up, get them going, get them the lessons to make it sustainable. And then finally, we're going to end with what makes a successful mentorship term. Per TI, it's just to be there with the club, last 6 months, and have the president sign off on paperwork. That's not much of a definition of a successful term, not really goals to have to actually do it. And I think that's kind of where some of the issues in the past have come up with mentorship and getting clubs to hit the ground running. And that's something that we're going to cover here to hopefully change that aspect. So what is a mentor? A mentor is a person that is caring. They have to care not just about other people, but about the purpose and mission of what they're doing. For this one is starting a new club. They have to care about being a Toastmaster, educating others, and getting them excited about being able to do it themselves. Another really key thing is willing to listen to others' ideas. That's similar as a leadership trait as well, because you're going to have your club come to you with ideas on helping to develop their own culture, which is going to be a must. And using those listening skills so they feel listened to, that we can give them the proper feedback they may need, or have them run with a suggestion, test it out, and then maneuver what might need to be changed with that idea in the future. And a strong knowledge of the must to having a strong club. There's some things that will make a club successful or it'll work, but there's certain musts that have to happen to keep things a strong club. So part of that, or an examples of that, is renewal dates. That's key, especially around contest season as the way it is now. Wording of the manuals is in the rule books is continuously for 6 months, a club in good standing and a member in good standing. If the club does not pay dues on time, that can affect a club or a member's status of being in good standing and start disqualifying them from different events of being a Toastmaster. Also, tax forms. Our district's based out in California. There's a tax form that has to be filled out once a year as well because we are an official nonprofit organization. So understanding that. Trainings. It is a must and it isn't a must. No one's going to heavily penalize the club, but the club is going to miss out on a lot of resources and education that comes through those trainings. So it's a must for the officers to understand that value in it, even if they've gone to trainings in the past. If they've been the officer in that role before, there's still new ideas that come from this community that's developed at these trainings. That's why it's actually a must for them to go to those trainings. Another key thing about a mentor is the ability to empower others. That's key because once the mentor leaves, the club's left there by themselves. A great example of this is some clubs that charter, they have that one person that does it all. This is typically like the sponsor of a new club, and they have the support from the mentors as well. but they're not empowering the other officers enough to take ownership of the club and feel the pride that comes with making it successful, achieving the Distinguished Club program goals, and moving the club along to what it takes to be a successful club. And then they either have to leave the company or leave the area, they get transferred, no longer involved with that club, and the club crumbles. So you have to empower others to step up in leadership as well. That way things will be sustainable and the other members are growing and having the full experience of being a Toastmaster. So as a mentor, you have to empower others as well to be able to do those things, take ownership so they're not relying on you as a mentor, but actually confident in themselves and their abilities when you're not there or even when you are there. In management myself, helping develop and grow leaders, I brought several people up to my point in management at a company I worked at, and it felt good watching them run with things and knowing that I helped them get there. So it's also a great feeling that comes by empowering others. So mentor expectations. So one of the keys here is to help the club create their own culture that is sustainable within the framework set by Toastmasters International. Now, I've taken some creative abilities on this wording, and this is something that I believe all mentors should do when it comes to Toastmaster clubs. It has to be their own culture. That's what makes Toastmasters so much fun, is each club has its own culture, has its own feel to it. If you're a member out there that's visited a bunch of clubs, you know, some of them have like joke masters, ideas. Some of them have just slightly different ways of doing things and the culture within itself that makes it fun and makes the club who it is. And if you're not true to who you are or who your club is, then it's not going to gain the traction it might be needed to actually maintain it. But it has to be within the framework set by Toastmasters International. There has been incidences where clubs will start off, they'll start out in the framework, and they'll fall off. It turns into a social club with the branding of Toastmaster International to it. And that's not a good representation of it. Or they'll only want to do table topics versus the prepared speeches. So when people come to the club, they're not seeing a true representation of what Toastmasters really is. So as a mentor, it's your job to help keep them within the framework of Toastmasters International, but help them decide and develop their own culture, no matter what that might be, as long as it falls within the mission of Toastmasters and the mission of clubs. So that's the key part of keeping it within that framework. Now, here's one big thing when it comes to being a mentor, and this is kind of something I put out there for it. This isn't your dream club, it's theirs. We say it one more time just so it can set in deeply. This isn't your dream club, it is their dream club. You're helped there to develop their dream, their vision, and help it grow within that framework of Toastmasters International. A lot of times people come in and say it has to be this way, which it doesn't. They have a little bit of give on what they need to do as long as it achieves the members' goals within that framework again, because those do happen. And then it causes controversy and stress upon the club that isn't needed. So the reason I add this is I do have experience with hearing this from other clubs, other mentors, or people that have worked with other clubs, that this is something that happens. The person comes and tries to develop it to their dream versus the member's dream. So as a mentor, that is definitely a key expectation to go in and help them create their dream club. And you're there to support them and achieve those goals. So what should the club know? What resources are out there for them? Toastmaster International's website, great resource. It's surprising how many members have never logged into that website. So the resources that are out there within that website itself, Currently, because of the legacy program, there's manuals on everything. There are several manuals on mentorship. If it's club mentorship, leadership mentorship, it's out there, and most of them are free digital copies, so you can download them. There's the Distinguished Club Program, which is another great resource because it teaches them the framework they need to show that they are being successful. Another great resource based on just the website is how to ask Toastmasters International itself for help. Ever since I got into district leadership, that was a telephone number I knew was valuable to have. As a club president, as a district officer, I would call there whenever I had questions, and they're happy to help out and are quick with the replies. If you need an immediate reply, telephone is the best. If it's not that urgent, email's fine. They will get back to you within a couple of days. Another great resource is our District 4 website, d4tm.org. That one actually has a lot of information in there as well. There's an FAQ page that we're building out on there. There's different events for training. That's all going to be on that website, and educational events, activities, then incentives as well, which will empower clubs to work towards goals and gain some revenue for their club to buy things that they may enjoy. That's another great resource. District officers. Definitely key resources the club has to know that are out there. The area director is going to have a very personal relationship with those officers and funnel down information from Toastmasters International, the district, and allowing them to gain the resources they need to be successful or answer questions they have and help them resolve issues as they grow in their leadership corps. Of course, the growth director, like myself, I'm there to help there. That's part of what I'm there to do, is answer questions, help them grow as members and clubs. Then pathways guides, or ambassadors, I think is what it is at this point. They're there, or X1s are there, since Pathways is still a very new program that people still need help with. I know there's 2 webinars going on Monday right now, and they will be saved on, again, the District 4 website as a great resource for them to grow as well. Okay, what should the club know? For me, it was the key thing is how to have a fun, productive meeting. If it's not fun, most likely people are not going to want to show up there and keep going. Even if they're learning, if it's more fun than that, they should really want to go and enjoy it. It's something that's going to be built off of the demo meeting or kickoff meeting, depending on which term you like to use. And that sets the template and framework for them to do. What also helps to become a fun, productive meeting is table topic ideas. The funner the ideas, the easier it is. It gets people to laugh, but also, again, that comes within the culture of the club. Meeting themes. It's another way to add a little bit of fun and productivity to the meeting. It challenges people to speak. I know within our club, the Toastmaster of the meeting asks anyone up with a speaking role to talk about the topic or the theme of the meeting on top of their regular meeting roles, of course, within the time allowed for that position. So what resources do they have or need to have those successful meetings? Timing cards are definitely key. Thank goodness for technology. There's a lot of different apps out there that will work as timing cards as well. Agenda templates. So they know how to structure their meeting, and it makes it a lot easier for them to be able to fill it out from trying to create something from scratch. Evaluation forms. With Pathways, there are the speech evaluation forms they can print out and pass out to their members. There are the smaller forms for all the members that can fill out during the meetings that they can order from Toastmasters Internationals as well. Role descriptions. Currently in District 4, the role description of all the roles within the meeting is on the back of the kickoff meeting agenda. I went to a club meeting today. It was their 3rd meeting, and they still kept that same similar format. So on the back of the agenda has the description of all the roles and what's expected for that. But there's also, let me step back a little bit to evaluation forms. It's not just speaker evaluation forms though. There are templates out there already for counter forms, grammarian forms, general evaluator forms. So it makes it easier for someone to follow a template like that when they're taking on a new role early on. So having that available to new clubs is key. If your club has it, great, share it with them. If it doesn't, definitely ask one of your district officers. We can produce some of those forms for you. I have a folder specifically just for those templates. And then we also have optional roles, which adds to the fun. We have a thought and joke master at the beginning of our meeting, kind of break the ice and help with the tone of it and lighten things up. We also have an educational tip. For our educational tip within the culture of our club, it does not have to be leadership or communication related educational tip. It is just an open forum, whatever you want to talk about, want to educate the club about it. What should the club also know? What are the roles in the meeting? Some clubs use handouts and scripts. Some of the roles are optional, just as I brought up. So it's key to have the club know what these type of things are, how to use them, and how to use the manuals that are out there. What are the club officers and what they do? That's something key for the club to know, so that way people will be able to step up into those roles and they'll understand what's required of them. For chartering a new club, they have to elect their own officers, and it's required that they have at least 3 officers. Hopefully they'll have all 7 as a new club so they can start the ground off running. That's something they need to do or need to understand. And with officers and clubs chartering outside of our typical training time, you may be asked as a mentor to go over the officer roles with the officers. It's either a district representative will do it, or as a mentor you can do that as well. In District 4, we have handouts, we have some PowerPoint presentations that have been done at officer trainings in the past as resources for you to be actually able to use during those type of trainings with that, or as a supporting document if you want to help out the officers if they've gone through some of the other officer trainings. They should also know what activities are outside of the club. Trainings, contests, open houses, visit other clubs, how to host your own. Those are all key things that clubs should understand and should know. So I want to open it up to everyone that's on the call right now with some additional ideas or things that they personally feel a club should know.
Before we get to that, Orlando, this Kalidas here.
Yes.
You said we need to have minimum of 3 officers, right? Is it 3 or 4?
It might be 4. I thought it was 3. It's like a president, a VP, and the secretary. I'll have to recheck. It might be 4. For some reason, I thought it was just those 3. It might be 2 VPs and the president. I'll double check and I'll email it out to you or everyone in attendance with a confirmation. Typically, though, the clubs will have the full 7 officers when they charter.
Right.
All right, well, it sounds like I did cover a lot of what the club should know at this point. So I'm going to move on to the next slide, which is what should the club officers know? Which kind of ties back into a little bit of what we just talked on, is what are the roles and their commitments. As a club officer, they can, depending on the club culture, can be an officer for 6 months or a year. My personal preference is a year in line with the Distinguished Club program, because then they take ownership for the whole year. To recap what I said earlier in this isn't my dream club, this is their dream club, and it fits within their culture. Some places, a year is too much of a commitment, so 6 months works for them, and that's perfectly fine. It falls within the current standing of the Distinguished Club program, which is fine. They can go to the trainings. That also gives them a lot of variety in what they can do in the roles throughout the time, and gives more people opportunity to fulfill those roles. But it's understanding what those commitments are, such as also having their officer meetings. Typically, that's a once a month type thing, or making sure that they're having the VP of Education has the schedule filled out. The president is making sure they handle conflicts of interest. The secretary submits paperwork. The treasurer takes care of dues. All those things are really important for the officers to know of what their commitments really are. Usually it's handled pretty easily just with the officer manual. They can learn everything if they just read through it, but you're there to help support them, fill any blanks that they may need to know. And how important officer training is. Again, they get a lot of resources from those manuals, which they're actually mailed from Toastmasters International, but they're also free digital copies online as well. But nothing matches actually going to those officer trainings. Currently, during our officer trainings, we do bring up some incentive programs that are going on throughout that time. They also get to network with other Toastmasters and discuss issues that they may be having with other Toastmasters, or hear ideas from other officers that may have more experience in those roles at those trainings. And of course, the facilitators, there's a world of knowledge on that role. So it's a great opportunity to see the bigger world of Toastmaster by attending those trainings, and a great way to network and gain resources. The other part officers should know is contests, the value of contests and how to throw a contest. They're usually not too difficult on the club level. That's also a good area that they can learn and grow and move on to area level, where again, they get to meet more Toastmasters, see the bigger world that is our Toastmaster community. And the more involved they are with that, the longer they're going to stick around, the happier they're going to be with what they are doing. Then admin stuff, of course, when dues are due, officer list submissions, and then on the finance side of things, tax forms, how to do a budget. Another good thing is moments of truth. And there are some other modules out there that are going to help officers grow within their roles. So does anyone else have anything else that they feel I may have left off that the officers should know about their role? All right, with no one speaking up, we'll go ahead and move on. A successful term as a mentor. So per Toastmasters International, the mentor's term is 6 months. It has to be a minimum of 6 months, but a mentor can linger around a little bit and temper off if needed to make sure that they are a little bit more sustainable after the 6-month period. So some of the goals they should have is the club knows how to run a meeting without you. Sounds pretty basic. But how well does the Toastmaster know how to fill in roles when they're not there? Or little details like that. It's a really simple goal to have. They'll gain a lot of the experience from the templates that will be given to them. But as a mentor, you should be able to guide them through running a meeting without you being there. They should know how to be a general evaluator, how evaluations work, and to hold a meeting, even though it's going to be a low turnout, just to keep everything in habit and functioning. The club has sustainable membership and knows how to grow their membership. Most clubs start off with just 20. Some I've seen actually start up with 25. I think one even I've seen had about 32 members hitting the ground running. which is great. With natural loss of membership, it's going to happen. So they have to learn how to keep members that they have, which it's a given they're going to lose members, life happens, but they also need to know how to grow members. How is their PR looking? How are they converting guests to members? How are guests treated? Those type of things. Or different programs out there to help grow membership, such as open houses or networking with other clubs, having a culture that attracts more people, or making themselves a club that's attractive for dual memberships. There are some advanced clubs or specialty clubs that are very good at that. So that's how they gain and grow their membership as well. Another key thing with anyone growing and learning is they have to know how to ask for help and isn't afraid to do it. That's key. Sometimes we get stuck in those places where it's like, I need help, I'm not afraid to do it, or I don't know who to ask. That's something the club has to be able to do. If there's ever a red flag on them tempering down, things don't seem to be working as well as they thought, they need to be able to ask for help. The area director is definitely willing to help them. That's part of what their role is to help them grow and be successful. But it's difficult from an outside perception to help someone you don't know they need help. And also another key thing for them is members are having fun in achieving their goals. So if you can achieve all those things within your 6-month period, I feel that you've done a great job. Does anyone have anything additional that they would like to add to that aspect of things for what it takes to be a successful mentor? If we have anyone on here that's been a mentor before, or someone looking into mentorship, or has had a personal mentor before.
I don't have anything to add, Orlando, but I have a question for everyone on the call. I see that we have Cynthia, Robert, and Vanda as well, apart from you. I had a question. I've seen one club which was started close to 6 months ago, started very well, uh, and then takes off very well. And this is a closed club, mind you.
Mm-hmm.
And within a couple of months, the meetings actually are not as organized as it used to be. We are talking about 2 to 3 months, right? And the decline has already started. And then for month 5, things are still starting to look even bad. And by month 6, they are worried that they will not even survive the first year. So this is an open question for everyone on the call here. Have you ever seen something like this? And if you have, what would you do to ensure that we don't run into a scenario if we were mentoring a club?
Since no one else is speaking up at this point, I'll go ahead and I'll start everything off. With that one, at least you caught it somewhat early. Part of it is their why. We have to understand the why they joined the club and why things have been tempering off, or where the structure went off. A great tool for this is moments of truth. Have the club do a moments of truth. But I would start with a discussion with the officers. So go top down. Find out what the officers have noticed of what was going wrong, or why they've lost the structure that they used to have. Where did the energy go that they used to have in the meeting? And then you can start troubleshooting based upon that. So again, that ties to definitely within the first point there of within the 6 months, the club has to know how to run a meeting. Sounds like they lost structure. And then it started tempering off. Maybe people started losing value in what they're doing, or there was some other internal change that happened that is causing this. Are the meetings no longer fun? Is someone having a death grip on the club and is not able to grow and develop in its own side? So it's kind of those type of things you have to look into before you can find a solution. At the end of the month, I'm going to be doing another webinar on like membership, but part of the tools that I use is the 5 whys. So you can truly understand what the core issue is there. It's also similar tools that salespeople use to find benefit and value of what's going on with something. They just keep digging until you find that core issue, because you get a shallow objection and then it doesn't give you the true answer. Someone say, well, we don't have good membership. Our membership numbers are low. Okay, why? Oh, all our members are leaving. It's like, okay, but are you having guests? No. Okay, that's an issue. If you're not having guests, people might not know about you. They may not see the value. And then once they fix that, it's like, okay, what's the conversion rate of guests to members? If that's an issue, then it's like, okay, people are showing up, but they're not becoming members. How are the guests being treated? Are they given information? Are the guests shown the value? So it's a step-by-step process of breaking it down to find out what the real issue is. But you have to find that core issue before you can fix it. So does anyone else have something they want to add on to that? Or please, do you have an additional comment?
Yeah, I don't want to hijack this meeting with this question going on, but then just one question, and perhaps we can take it offline and then we can discuss it later. But I was wondering, when a group puts their hands up and says, we are ready to charter, and then they bring up a group, I believe the minimum number we look for is 20, right? Um, do we at any point, as part of the chartering process, ask them what their motive is? Why are they doing this? Why are they not, instead of joining, they have multiple options. We're not discouraging them from starting a club. At the same time, what is it that motivates them to start their own little club, right? Uh, do we have anything of that kind? Because that actually might answer some of these issues we run into. In this case, the club I was talking about has more than 28 members. They still do. But then many of them actually have lost track because it's a closed club, first of all, and then it's a consulting organization. And perhaps many of them were there because the management told them to. And in the first few months, they actually thought they achieved it, and then they're gone. So perhaps if we have some kind of a control or some kind of a question answer session even before the club gets started, perhaps this might help. So just if it is off topic, please let me know, Orlando. We can certainly take it offline. But I was wondering if you have any such process defined by TMI.
There isn't anything actually established by TMI to find that type of information. The sad thing about when it comes to chartering clubs is, for TMI, all they need you to do is pay your dues, have 20 members. That's it. Fill out the paperwork for 20 members and pay the money. That's all they require to charter a club. We've had, in my position, we've had a couple clubs that wanted a charter. We suggested no. They just would not be a good fit for a sustainable club. Some of the comments we got back up from that person that wanted to charter it was, I'm going to do it with or without you. And as a district, we decided we're still going to support them. It's against our best wishes. But we went in to support them. We gave them the resources to charter. And luckily, in my perception of the word luckily, it did not charter. Because it wasn't sustainable. It wouldn't have been a great representation of Toastmasters International. It wouldn't have had the membership numbers to be sustainable. And it wouldn't have had a great culture, which would have been a bad representative of Toastmasters International, difficulty for the club officers of stressing them out, their members, and it would have been a great representation. So when it comes down to it, that can be something that's brought up to the club officers to do right away. Joe, which I hope he's on the call as well, was with me at a couple meetings for a club that just chartered. And that's something the VP of Education did at their first official meeting. He handed out papers just asking why and what do you want to get out of it. And then he read it back at this meeting. So that would be something I would empower the club to do early. And that's part of like moments of truth as well. But you might not need to go through the whole program to do it. But as a mentor, you can go, yeah, I've seen, let them know what the red flags are up front. They're already buying, they're already excited. Allow them to keep that energy going. You don't want to scare them too much. Just give them ideas of things to keep it going. And that's part of it, is knowing people's why. The additional benefit of that, and what this officer did, if he realized it or not, is he united the club on those whys. He read off about 3 different reasons why people were there, and it brought the club together. People would be shaking their head and agreeing, yeah, that's my why. They're like, that's a good why, and they'll just go in agreement, and it unites people too. So the short answer is PI doesn't have anything, but that doesn't stop mentors or other district leaders for helping new clubs to have something like that. But part of that is done within the moments of truth.
Thank you, Orlando.
Yeah, not a problem. If someone's got more to add, at this point, I was hoping for a little bit more engagement from everyone. So we're actually running pretty early. Does anyone have any general questions about mentorship or any questions they would like for me? We have approximately 20 minutes still left that we could just talk over any of these problems or issues that might come up.
I have not a question, perhaps just an understanding of the process, I would call it. When a club is in the process of chartering, the sponsors help them do the paperwork, help them with mentoring the chartering process. Yeah, is there a defined process somewhere where there's a handover from the sponsors to the mentors, so that the mentors now know, okay, this is the culture, these are the difficulties they run into during chartering, and so on and so forth, so that the mentors are better prepared to do their best over the next 6 months. Do we have any such process at this point?
There isn't a set process for that. In a perfect world, what would happen is there would be 2 sponsors, one being an experienced Toastmaster and one being a person within the club or the company that's starting the club. And they would go along, take care of all the paperwork, work with the district, have the kickoff meeting, have enough applications to submit the paperwork, elect the officers at that meeting, schedule the next meeting with mentors. Then you would have 2 mentors that would take on from there moving forward for 6 months. That's in a perfect world. That's not what ever happens. Or let me restate that. That's what rarely happens. I actually had a club charter a week before their kickoff meeting, which was amazing, and it happened about like that. What typically happens is we have a sponsor, we have someone from the district help that sponsor get all the paperwork together, start ramping up members. We have a kickoff meeting, which sometimes over 20 people attend, but they usually don't have their 20 members by the end of it. So they can't officially charter. And then they will go on for a few months trying to ramp up membership, but practicing that meeting every month. Sometimes we get the mentor in there to work with the sponsor. The sponsor's mainly handling paperwork side of things, getting it developed. We'll have a mentor in there helping them develop their own culture moving forward. Downside with that, and the disclaimer to give every single mentor, your term doesn't start until the club charters. So if you help a club out for 6 months and they finally charter on that 6th month, that's actually when your 6-month period starts with Toastmaster International. It should be mainly left up to the sponsor to do that. A lot of times we get close. Think they have their 20, realize they have 18, and it takes them several more weeks to be able to get that additional couple members to get things running. So that's actually how it typically happens. It's never perfect, but that's typically this way the chartering works.
Okay.
All right. Does anyone have any additional questions, concerns, or something they would like to add that I may have not covered in the presentation? All right. Without hearing any questions, I'm going to go ahead and end this a little bit early. If you do have any questions, though, you think of later, feel free to email me at growth@d4tm.org. This recording will be put up on our district website, which is at d4tm.org. So thank you for joining me on this presentation today. I look forward to hearing from you, and hopefully you can attend some of our other webinars.